Reconnect in this episode with the land through the woven stories of sovereignty with Zoe Daly, founder of Eriu woolen products. Honor yourself, celebrate your strength, empower your transformation with your Yin-care. This is the Yin-care Podcast, and I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yin-care Podcast. I'm your host, Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising. And today's podcast kind of piggybacks on the conversation I was having with Carly, my daughter, in episode 36, where she was sharing her experience with natural fibers and why she loves wearing them. And I wanted to not only continue this conversation, as I feel like how we adorn our bodies is another vehicle or a way into how we can care for ourselves as women, and also take baby steps that brings us back into alignment with our own health. But it also brings in what I would call the beauty codes, the beauty of our planet, the bounty that it holds, and our connection to the land. Interacting through wearing and using natural fibers, it increases our ability to come into greater frequential alignment with the planet, which both assists in our own healing as well as assists in the healing of the earth and expands her frequencies, which helps her in her own becoming. So think on that. Let me go ahead and introduce our beautiful guest today. It's none other than Zoe Daly. Zoe Daly is passionate about her Irish heritage, sustainable living, and nature. And it is this combination of traits plus some inspiration from her grandmother that led her on her journey to found Eriu. Eriu woolen products embodies Ireland's remembrance of the historic woolen industry that has been reignited really by Zoe and her husband Lionel, creating what they call a farm to yarn business, selling finished woolen sweaters, scarves, blankets, hats, and all kinds of other things, as well as this gorgeous yarn. And all of this is wrapped into beautiful story after story involving birth, grandmothers, love, Eriu, the goddess of sovereignty. But before starting Eriu, Zoe spent the prior 12 years working in the film and documentary industry, working on the production of a series and feature TV and cinematic documentaries, along with other TV commercials and national campaigns, including Board Bia, which I looked up is a national organic food campaign, and Failt Ireland, which seems to be a campaign encouraging people of Ireland to travel within their own country, which is pretty cool. So Zoe is a really, really classy gal, and I can't wait to introduce you. She also has an honors degree in computer science from the University College at Dublin and is a licensed meditation facilitator. So without further ado, let's welcome in Zoe. Zoe, welcome to the Yin-care Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. So thrilled to be invited, Margaret. I'm just delighted, and you look absolutely stunning in your Eriu. And
Yes.
I'm so grateful for you to bring awareness to your community. So I'm deeply honored. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And yes, let me show everybody. I've got this funny background here that I'm using right now as we build the full studio background. But these woolen sweaters are the Eriu sweaters. So you'll see me wearing them often. And this is, are you guys calling this a shawl? Or
The sovereignty shawl. Yeah.
it is the sovereign.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even realize that's what the name was when I pulled it out of my closet just now. I had the golden scarf I was wearing, and I was telling Zoe before we hopped on here that I was listening to a bunch of the older interviews that I had watched with Zoe, with some other folks that we've both worked with. And they were historical conversations. So it was you really building your business. Like the first conversations were when the blankets came out.
and then the sweaters were launched, and then, you know, and so I can't remember what I was listening to, and I thought, oh, I should go. I've got one of those in my closet. I should wear that one too. So it's really special because one of the things we're going to be speaking about today are the sovereignty goddesses. So
Yeah.
Can you hear my cat too at the same time or no?
I need to tell you that my cat is going crazy and like he's jumping up and down here like a mad thing. And I'm just waiting for him to crash onto the screen. I was about to warn you. And then when you said about your cat, I thought, okay, they're clearly connecting. You know,
yeah, that is so funny. Yeah. Well, this is, you know, Zoe's in Ireland and I'm in Wyoming. And so this is out of my cat's routine for me to do it anything in my office this time of day, you know, for us to meet up. And so she's sort of like, why are we not on our schedule? What is going on?
Sorry, cats.
It's okay. It's totally fine. But anyway, so what I'd really love if you know, you have so many beautiful stories. This is such a magical business that you have created. Let's just start with the story of Eriu as a business and all of the magic. Just lay it on for people, you know, don't be shy, share your insights. I'd love for you to weave in your spirituality in all of that so that the women can see how your intuitive guidance really led the business as well.
Okay. Yes, because they're parallel paths and they definitely weave together. So I suppose the story started with the birth of my daughter, Sophia, who's now 10, and my grandmother, who was, they share the same birthday. So there was a clue in that. She knitted me a most beautiful baby blanket of pure wool, and she's from the countryside. Knitting is her skill. She's incredible, and it's really a gift that is a traditional Irish gift. You know, as soon as a baby is born, the best knitter in the family would, you know, knit the finest blanket. And I noticed that it was really a rare thing, becoming a rare thing. I didn't know anyone my age who was having babies who had this homemade woolen blanket. And I really just became obsessed with it. I didn't know that much about fabrics and frequencies and how they affect your body, but I just witnessed this pure wool blanket with the baby as a first-time mother, not knowing why they're crying or what's going on. This blanket, I called it the Kitsy blanket after my grandmother's name. When I wrapped her in it, sometimes, you know, when you just don't know, the baby's fed, the baby's, you know, like, you know, changed, all the things. And I know now they can just be calibrating to energy. There's so many other things that could be going on. But this blanket calmed her. And I know now it was the frequency of wool was doing something for her. But for me, it was just the best thing I had as a mother. Started to become kind of obsessed with wool. And I also was kind of saddened to see that this is really a dying art. I couldn't knit a blanket like she could. I could, you know, have basic knitting skills. And I thought, because I worked freelance in the film industry, I thought, what a lovely little business idea to create these handmade blankets. There must be knitters out there who can still do it. There are, but maybe, you know, create it just as a little business to have on the side and honor, you know, my grandmother as blanket. And I thought also, because of sustainability and everything, I thought, wouldn't it be lovely to go direct to the farmer? I'm from the city, but like I thought, well, go to the farmer, meet the sheep, get the wool, and have a whole kind of circular journey. So that was the first idea I had. And at that stage, because I'm a researcher, I just started researching straight away. And the first block I hit was that there was no Irish wool. Because I was like, I'm going to get the finest Irish wool. You know, there must be a selection. And we have many, many sheep. And I went to wool shops, I went everywhere, and everyone was the same story, same narrative. Oh, Irish wool, no, that's terrible. We don't have it, and it's worthless. That was the story I kept coming up. It was worthless. It's not worth anything. And And what was happening on a physical level is all of the wool that was being shorn from the sheep every year was being exported out of the country, sold into China or wherever. They said because it's bad quality, it's only good for carpets or whatever. The price for the farmers was coming so low down that it was now costing farmers, and it's been like this for over a decade, costing farmers more to shear their sheep than what they were getting paid for the wool. So they're at a loss just shearing. And shearing is a necessary thing you have to do every year. That's the beauty of wool. It's regenerative. But so farmers are at a loss anyway. And this is coming from a heritage of farmers generations ago. I'd speak to farmers now. The grandparents would remember wool being so valuable that children would collect it off wire fencing and bring it in.
It's so special that at least there's a memory of, that it's not like, too many generations back that it can't be remembered at all.
Exactly. That's what I keep saying. We're just on the cusp of like this generation can meet this old generation. There's still so much wisdom there. There's wisdom in many of the women who created the patterns and the beautiful knitting. So that's the story I met. And I kind of just fell in love with this story because the more I researched it, it wasn't viable as a business, because there was no wool.
Right.
But then I just kept researching and meeting farmers, hand spinners, crafters who were passionate, who told me stories, who said, there is good Irish wool available. It is true. It's just that there's been no attention. There's been no money put into it. It's been devalued. The farmers have been devalued. So how can they maintain a nice flock or care about a breed? All the breeding had got mixed in. So I just couldn't help but research it and was determined to find. I just didn't believe it. This was my intuition. I just didn't believe the narrative that I was meeting, that Irish wool was worthless.
Thank goodness you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And even though I knew nothing about farming or sheep or even textiles, I don't even have a background in any of those things. Probably I was a black sheep coming about it. Totally.
Yeah, so was I. We have that going for us, right?
Yeah. It kind of helps sometimes, right? To have like this outside perspective. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I found wool, tracked down farmers, researched breeds, collected it in my car, smelly fleeces, driving around, meeting people, hearing about a breed here, a breed there. There was nowhere in Ireland to spin it into wool because all those industries had shut down. All the woolen mills, which there were many of, one in every county in Ireland. Some counties there were many. It was literally the backbone of Irish society. They formed all the communities, they served communities. Communities revolved around wool.
Wow.
They had all disappeared. All the parts had been sold to third world countries, and they had literally disappeared, all the woolen mills. So I had to send it to the UK to get processed. And when it came back and I had it knitted up, I knew it was gold. Like, to me, I knew that this truth that I had felt in my heart, despite knowing nothing, like intellectually, or I knew that it was gold. People were seeing worthless things, and I just saw, this is gold. How can we let this happen? So at the same time in my life, a lot of things were going wrong. Just like, personally, I was leaving a marriage. It was not good timing, really, to be starting a business, but I was still totally obsessed with it. And I knew that I couldn't let it go. It was like my heart was ignited.
Okay. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you one thing, because I wanted to ask this question. This is what was stirring for me when I've heard you tell this story. But I also went through a divorce, and I know how difficult that time can be, and coming back into trusting yourself and trusting the next steps. But I'm very curious if that blanket that your mom gave and that piece of gold that you were able to glean, were you physically using it as a tool to guide you in some way? Was that providing a physical kind of touchstone for you as
Yeah.
guidance?
Yes, I love the way you say that, a physical touchstone. Yes, because it was always used non-consciously, actually. I think this is where our guidance is always so guiding us, even when we don't know it. I would have been using it all the time around my child, my baby growing into a toddler, like it came that thing. That's always, I still even have it here. It's just, I think it was a physical touchstone. I think we're left almost these threads that are guiding us. Even though it was on the surface a really bad time, it was also a really powerful time where I was being initiated into diving into trust myself. And it's either fear or faith, really, isn't it? Those initiations, are you going to go into total fear? Or are you just going to dive into the ocean of the unknown? And yet you're never more sure that's the right thing to do. And that's then a faith. Okay, you got to that part and then the next part. So many times I thought I was crazy, but at the same time, what was happening was that was when I really met my guides, the sovereignty goddesses. So I was, I felt like I was losing everything. And yet I was receiving also this massive support, you know, they appeared to me, and I knew that I'd always been looked after them or worked with them. They're very connected to the fairy realm. They're connected to the land. They really do say like nature is the bridge where we connect, where we meet. And they were like just very practical guides in helping me make decisions about what my physical next steps were. Like I remember having these 2 ginormous bags of wool that had been spun into the beautiful wool to be knit up, and leaving my house going like, this is crazy. What am I going to do with all this wool? I'm getting divorced. Like what? It made no sense. And yet I just knew there was something that was so important about this, and that I couldn't give up on it. I couldn't just leave it. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, they started to guide me. And then I had those beautiful touchstones, like you say, those kind of comforting, practical things that were in my life that wasn't happening in my meditation space or whatever, that were actually really weaving into my day. And the wisdom of my grandmother, these really tangible things in my day to day. And yeah, the sovereignty goddesses kind of came in very strong, and they guided me very, very visually and powerfully through dreams and visions of the person I was going to meet, Lionel, my husband now. And I dreamt about the woolen mill that we're restoring and setting up this year. I physically saw it in this forest, in the middle of this warehouse in the middle of a forest, which was Lionel's farm. So I dreamt about the farm. I dreamt about the land where our farm is before I'd even met it. I remember being in a therapy session with my counselor saying, I had this dream, and it, like this person it was so, and she was like, yeah. I'm not really crazy. It was something about this person. And she was like,
That's so funny. I can't wait to I'll tell you some of my dream stories too that led me to my partner as well. But go ahead. That's great.
Oh, I love it, because I think I was so vulnerable, really, but being up for doing the work, I was being brave and taking the steps and moving forward. But I was given these, thank God, I was given these strong visual dreams that I couldn't say no to, because I was given a dream. And then I literally walked into a room one day, and there was Lionel, and I had dreamt about him. And when he said he was a farmer, I was like a sheep farmer. I was like, oh my God, what type of sheep do you have? I was like the worst chat up line ever for most people.
I think you'd said in this, I loved that you said this when I was going back and listening to your lecture that you gave at the 888 portal for the Earth Star Academy this last summer. And you were saying like, he was like, why are you even interested? Like, sheep farmers are not cool. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
and you're like, what do
Totally.
you mean? They're totally cool. Like, sheep
Yeah.
farmers are the best.
I know. And he was like this girl from the city. Like he's trying to get away from that image. He is like a businessman. That's what he was, telling me, which he is. But yeah, I thought it was all very cool. And also I was getting like this, oh my God, this is a full dream I've had about this person. It was so surreal.
Wow.
So it has been a constant weaving of these worlds. And whilst I've had all the moments of self-doubt, am I crazy, especially on a healing journey from being vulnerable, leaving a marriage that I think that wasn't working, being brave and being on that path, but being vulnerable also, and being asked to consistently lean into that faith, into that intuition. I have never been let down by leaning into my own intuition. And you still have those moments or those voices that come up. But
I love that you say that, because I call that building the trust muscle. Like, you start with little baby things where you lean into it, and it's like, oh, that's working. That like my trusting my intuition that was actually the right decision for me. That actually worked. Oh my gosh. And the universe is still providing me with more. Oh my gosh. There's step after step that you're sort of asked to come into, just, this ability to listen to your inner guidance and trust, and slowly it evolves, right?
100%. I love that you say that, building that muscle. It really is, because it is a constant practice, and I don't think you like nail it so much. It just grows stronger, and you have more faith. I have more faith with each strengthening of that muscle. But then that initiation or that question, it will become bigger. But then also the reward for following that becomes bigger. So the more I've really surrendered to the fact that my intuition is so attuned to my divine purpose, which is of a connected purpose that we're all here essentially to do, which benefits ourselves and benefits the earth and benefits each other as community. The more I'm really trusting into that and leaning into that, the less egoic self-doubts get in the way.
Right.
The more I can see it as it's totally me, but it's not me. At the same time, I'm in service to this. It releases and relaxes a bit of any kind of ego holding on that I think, okay, I've got to make this work, which does come in at times when you are trusting yourself. Do you find that? You're like, okay, well, I came up with this mad idea. I've got to make it work sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. But there's that, and I'll use some of the language for the audience that both Zoe and I have participated in, some of the womb containers that Z Erstar has offered. And we'll get Z on here as well. But that is like the balancing of the masculine side, the internal masculine that's like coming up to support the feminine, right? That's saying like almost that quality of emotional conviction has to be there to support this crazy idea,
100%. Like I really feel that in my inner masculine. I feel my inner masculine as a guard, as a guardian of my womb wisdom. You put it like that. Like that really, he doesn't let in that self-doubting voice when I'm in balance with that, and more, growing that and strengthening that relationship I have with them both, this balancing, because they're in constant service to each other, which is up leveling both parts of them, is up leveling you, which is up leveling your service ultimately.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I think that
exactly. And then, that brings you, also when you've up leveled yourself like that, because I really believe that the vehicle, the physical body vehicle that we've been given, which is why I'm so passionate about helping women find the next best step that they can take to clean up their vessel, so to speak, because the more they bring themselves into alignment with their body, the body is and this goes back to like the the connection with earth, the connection and all of this, but that the body itself is a vehicle for the expression of the earth energies to come up through. And so when we are in that alignment, it is the balance that the sovereignty goddesses held, I believe. So we've got to clean this part up. The wool part is a great tool for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even I hear that voice when I choose to go for that massage or take that piece of self-care that I need to do for my body. I hear that voice like, Zoe, this is critical. This is an essential part of your service, is to take care of your body, because carrying things and carrying blocks or manifesting things that are just not necessary, if we're really just taking the time to intuit and listen and commit to that kind of self-care of our body, especially, you're not serving anyone anyway when you're not doing that, especially the land, where the Celtic sovereignty goddesses, that was their huge role, was to be in such harmonic balance within that was a reciprocal relationship with the land. They're feeding the land is feeding them, and it's just this communal rippling out into community. And especially that was really trusted of the sovereignty goddess to really lead that holding of that vibrational frequency, which benefited all, which serves all. So self-care and self-honor, which is that word that I love that you use, it's a huge teaching of theirs. It really is.
I know. I love that. It is. It's so important. I go through every morning when I'm connecting is just honoring, just saying like, I honor you, I honor you, I honor you. And it's not, by honoring yourself, you're honoring everything around you. And especially as women, which is I love so much your story, because it's such a woman's story. Like, it came out of having your baby. You're holding these lineages of the grandmother, the mother, the baby, all of this coming into this divine purpose that you're expressing as well. It's just, it's such a rich story. I just love it.
I feel so blessed, because I'm like, the more I realize I can let go, it's not really my idea, I'm in service to this, then I see what a gift it is to be in service to this magic, because they're bringing into my awareness the magic that already exists with wool specifically, which you can apply to many parts of nature, but sheep and wool specifically carry this high frequency, this high vibration that we mentioned, that enhances your body's vitality. It also enhances those around you. It emanates good vibrations, essentially. And that is serving the land, that is serving your community, that is serving your body. And it can also be woven with prayer, because it carries this, it's definitely a carrier. And there's no science on this. It's just what I know, what I feel, what you've felt. Because the prayer of the sovereignty goddesses, who we named our company Eriu after, in honor of Eriu, the main kind of patron sovereignty goddess of Ireland, who was so deeply connected to the land. We know, and I pray, and like everything is woven, her prayer, their prayer, to reconnect this wisdom, this magic, to reconnect people with nature, very simply, for their own healing, for the planet's healing, is woven deeply into the wool, into the yarn.
I want to hear about how you can continue with that, but the women that are doing the knitting, but I cut you off as far as like once you had the wool and you took it to England to be spun for the first time, but you ended up having this beautiful relationship with, now I'm going to forget the name of the yarn company that is spinning the yarn for you now. And then, explain to everybody like that piece of it, because I totally sidetracked you.
Oh, no, you're okay. Like when I got the yarn back, I got it. It was spun up. I met these women who do all of our products. They create all our products. They knit them all on a domestic loom from their homes. The two Anns, it's Anne and Anne, and they are grandmothers. They are mothers. They are just like really real people. You go to their house, you have a cup of tea, and we design the sweaters together. I come with ideas of what I want with no technical knowledge whatsoever. They're like, you can't do that, but you can do this. And always the garment evolves into the perfect thing. Margaret, I can't tell you how much I have no knowledge of design, right? I just have an idea of what I love. I love beauty. I love certain things. I like certain aspects, like making cuffs elongated to make they're very feminine. So I know I have a natural gift for kind of aesthetic things, but it's really the Anne's expertise. But they're working with unknown ideas, new things that I'm bringing, new yarn that they've never worked with before, didn't think was possible. And I am absolutely positive the sovereignty goddesses, because I pray to them and work with them, and I say, make this sweater for the highest good of all and the most beautiful way it can serve women when they wear this sweater. And it never turns out as I expected. It turns into something else. Wow. And they suit so many body types. God.
I know. I love it. Okay, you guys can't, I don't know if I stood up, if anyone can see, but well, it's a little hard with this, but the sides go like that. And so if you've got any little rolls on the sides, it covers that perfectly. You don't have to like think about, you feel. And like Carly, my daughter, was talking about this in you'll be able to go back and listen. It's a great episode. It's a really good interview with my daughter, but she was talking about how she feels so much more supported by covering her body. And that as a young one, she was all about uncovering her body. And as she's come into learning more about fashion in the industry, and then she actually cut all of her hair off, so she has it's not fully shaved right now, but it's it's pretty darn close. It's just a very little, and she's a redhead, by the way, so we definitely and we do have some Irish blood in our but she anyway really appreciates the coverage. And I have to say, for me, I mean, I'm not one who's I wouldn't say that I have really I guess there have been times in my life when I've struggled with weight or felt like there was a struggle more mentally than anything, but it's just nice to feel the coverage, and it just feels so luxurious. It feels really, you just feel elevated. You feel incredibly elevated by the design of the sweaters. All of them, even though the one you're wearing, right? That's one of them too, right?
This is the Eriu. Yeah, this is like our kind of standard crew neck, and everything is designed to drape. And the nature of actually the breed of sheep that we use, it has this natural drape effect in its wool. So the garments lend themselves that everything is flowing. It's based around flow and femininity. And for sure the goddesses are guiding them, because they honor the feminine. And they always remind me that they wore wool. They wore wool the same way they wore the wool from the land. They honored the animal. They wore maybe more cloaks and more long dresses, but the ideas were the same. The adornment, the beauty, and a lot of that was very covered, but it can still be the most elegant way to wear clothing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so, okay, so you got the wool, and then you found, I think there's an interesting, how did you have to convince the yarn that is it a Donegal?
Oh, Donegal yarns. They are a spinning company up in Donegal. Yeah. And they actually, we had to convince them to work with Irish wool, because they were the few remaining mills in Ireland that thankfully do exist, and that preserve that name of, creating woven blankets and traditional blankets. They had no choice really with the whole destruction of the wool industry, but to import wool. So that's the other big thing. There's no Aran sweater, Irish wool blanket made of Irish wool. We're the only brand that is doing that. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, but it is so cool. You're such a badass. I love it.
I mean, I spoke to this lady the other day. I just sent her some wool. She's on the Aran Islands, where the original Aran sweater came from, and she runs this beautiful business. Mostly, I think most of her business is to America.
Uh-huh.
That's my 3-year-old, by the way.
That's
My mom is
okay.
mindful.
This is the real deal, like women's lives.
We got cats, we
We
got
got kids, we
3-year-olds,
got
10-year-olds.
exactly.
Good, thank you. But she has never, her grandparents would have used Irish wool. Again, the same story. I said, would you like to try Irish wool that is, of the highest quality that you can imagine? I said, like, you won't really know until you feel it in your hands. And we've just posted that out to her. So she's so grateful to
Wow.
to work with that. And we're just now at a stage where we've created our own products. We create knitting yarn for people to make their own products and patterns to go with that, which is such a magic thing to do as well.
Wow.
And then we have now also yarn that we're making available to designers. Like I was saying to your daughter, people who want to work with this wool, it's very magical. And yeah, we had to convince the Irish mill to work with Irish wool again, So,
Wow.
but they did, and they were amazed because again, they just didn't know. We didn't even know the right way to spin it ourselves, because it was like a new fiber. We actually have lost that knowledge on the island of how to spin Irish wool, because they're used to importing all the merino, which is a different thing. And we actually have the woolen mill. Did I tell you that part of the story that is on the farm?
I think I heard you mention it probably in some other discussion. So I don't think you really fully explained that to people.
It's another part of the story that I had dreamt about, this warehouse that was on Lionel's farm when I met him. This warehouse that he had just emptied it out from his previous family business. So it had just literally emptied all of its contents, this warehouse that they had built. And at the same time that I had met him and everything was kind of kicking off, I was convincing him that we had to do something about Irish wool. He was a sheep farmer. Right. He was the perfect person to pick up this crazy dream I had. And then obviously our paths were being drawn together in many other ways. Mm-hmm. And I got a call from a farmer I'd been working with who said there's a woolen mill in Ireland and it's about to be shipped out. It's the last remaining one here. Do you know anybody who can buy it? And I was like, I'll try somehow to, so I convinced Lionel that we would go and see it. And when we went to see it, it was crazy because Lionel just saw this warehouse that it was housed in, and it was the exact same size warehouse that he had at the farm. Like, this had been purpose built for this mill that was about to leave the country. And we both knew, because thankfully Lionel is in touch with his wisdom as well. He knew, like, that was such a synchronicity that,
right.
It was like a jigsaw piece. The mill has its own destiny. I was like, it's Eriu. This mill belongs on your farm. I don't know how it's going to work or how we're going to get it there or how we're going to pay for it. But this has to go there. And Lionel was just like,
absolutely.
Darn it.
Well, I think people forget that, like, consciousness is imbued in everything that's there. And so the mill itself had a consciousness that it was built to be used. It was built to be to be working with Irish, with Irish wool, with this whole industry. And its purpose was not finished. So it consciously was sending out some frequential, like, radars that you guys were like, okay, there we are, if they communicate.
100%, the same as the land. It was like a magnet to the land. So, at those times when things like that happen, I really do honor, okay, this is just meant to happen. And if it's so strong that it's meant to happen, I know that we will be supported in finding the way. It's like that faith. And I totally agree. This mill, which is so symbolic of spinning and weaving back together a broken industry, is so, it just made sense. And I, since then, believe it or not, in the valley beside the mountain where the farm is, I have just found, and there's no trace of this now. When you go there now, you would have no idea of this. But I've just found through research that it was a thriving hub of wool production. There was a woolen mill
Valley
there.
where
There
you're
was,
at right now?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
what?
Yes,
No way.
where the farm is. Yeah, where our
Wow.
farm is, where our mill is that we're restoring. We are actually restoring back what was there, but no one, even the locals, don't know that because it's
No
very,
way.
very old. Like in the 1200s, there were Cistercian monks that came and set up mills there. There's not a trace of it there anymore. So it's a
Wow.
very ancient industry existed on that land that again had spoken to us through these visions, through the dreams, through
Right.
the synchronicities, through honoring our own wisdom,
Right.
and being mad enough to follow it, like, but not mad. But I'm trying to balance that all then with life and business and practicality
And kids and everything.
and kids
Yeah.
and moving through big life changes and messiness. You know?
Oh my gosh,
Um,
that's
but
so cool.
but it just leads you further. When you start going down that road, you're like, okay, this has got to be destiny. This has got to be faith. And I know the goddesses in my relationship with them, the sovereignty goddesses, you know, their wish is to restore this sovereignty to the land that was really broken apart. Intentionally, I believe, you know, really the demise and the breakdown of this beautiful mainstream industry of Ireland, which wove community together, which empowered people, which enabled their creativity to flourish, like the women with their designs and the patterns and the skills, which would be deduced like and created in gatherings and be created from their hearts and their wombs with love, because they'd be creating patterns for their families. They'd be creating stories through the stitches. It was all born of love and creativity and connection to the land. And they were working with these high vibrational things, working sustainably, working in such harmony with the land. You know, that is a beautiful high vibrational space, and as part of really the, you know, the whole colonization of Ireland, the destruction of this woolen industry happened, and there were very physical things that happened, like you know, there was a ban from the British on the exportation of wool when our industry was thriving, and that just killed the industry. There was the famine. There were times where the industry was just crushed again, and then finally in kind of the 70s, after many times Irish people would revive it because it is in our DNA. It would really, the kind of the global breakdown of using natural fibers really ended it there. But you know, I met a woman recently, and she remembers growing up near this thriving woolen mill in the Midlands. And she was saying she had moved there, her family had moved there from another place. And they were saying the children were better dressed than her father, because this community was so connected to their woolen industry. All the families worked there. Like they educated the children through the woolen mill. They had, they taught like dance, they put on theater, they fed them all. The women working there and the men working there, they were wearing the finest clothing.
And where was this?
This was a typical example of a thriving woolen mill, which was also then manufacturing clothes, which was like a full vertical system. So that they brought in the sheep from the land, they shore them there, they spun the wool into yarn, then they did the knitwear, they knitted up Aran sweaters and beautiful sweaters. They also wove the wool and they made tweed suits. So they were,
and this was in Ireland. You're saying,
this was in Ireland.
Like, but were they using Irish wool, or were they using?
Yeah, this would have been.
When was this?
This was it was like in 1870. This one started. Just tracking the history, and there were many. These were all dotted around the country. But just hearing the story of this woman, who apparently there are still some grandmothers who remember the patterns. I'm trying to get hold of them, so that we could recreate the garments from those patterns. That was a time where they were using Irish wool, but really how it worked like it worked as a community, it worked as a sovereign industry. We were exporting wool all over the globe. It was creating a very sovereign, very healthy, very sustainable, all the things we talk about business, big business doesn't do today, respecting and honoring the land, but really taking care of community that was woven around this. You know, there weren't colleges available at that time. It was just coming out of the famine years, but all the young people were educated through people coming together and providing services for this within the working community. And there were many different jobs and skill sets they could go into. But, you know, the narrative I bumped into when I went to find out about the wool was that, oh, it's worthless. You know, our wool isn't good enough. This kind of shame that was programmed into our society from really the colonization really became, you know, it wasn't a truth. Right. Our heritage is in the pride of our Irish wool, but how sad that could be broken down through such trauma and separation.
Yeah. And did they because I know it was a challenge for you to find the right sheep, right? Mm-hmm. So what happened to the sheep?
Yeah, well, so a big part of the story is what we're doing, is our vision is how can we really make this work again for the farmer, and that is through what we do through our farm to yarn is we literally pay them, incentivize them over 10 times the industry price they're getting to stick with this breed, curate the flocks, take care of the fleeces better, invest in the shearing time. There's a lot of stuff that can be done to maintain that has just kind of vanished. But a lot of the sheep, what happened was we lost native breeds that, like, we had a beautiful native breed that actually they think they found some DNA from, and they're trying to reintroduce it. But as an example, it was this sheep that everyone would have had. Every home would have had one of these sheep, and they would have used it in the mills as well in bigger flocks. But just from a living perspective, right. The woman would have, gone out, they would have taken the wool, they would have hand spun it, this breed called the adorn. And apparently there was one flock of these left in the 70s. And our Department of Agriculture, can you imagine this? This is the brainwashing that has taken place. They killed them. They were like, they said, and this is a true story. Like, I still find it hard to tell the story, but it's true. I've met the people who knew the people who are involved in this decision. They said, well, it's worthless at the moment. The markets have crashed. Irish wool is worthless. Why would we keep the sheep? Like, I mean, if you told a child, like, this is a native flower, there's only one type of it left, would you plant it or would you step on it? They thought there's no use in this, which again was this narrative that I was bumping into, that we're worthless. It's worthless. We're not good enough. Everything else outside us is better. And I think
so they literally killed the flock.
They literally sent, they didn't think to just put it on a farm somewhere. They just said that breed is no use. Everything went into meat production.
Right,
so that's exactly what happened to sheep. Everything forced into meat production. We lost those native valuable breeds that would have been valuable for wool, wouldn't be so good for meat. And right. A lot of the breeds have gotten mixed. So there are still amazing, proud farmers that we work with, a whole network of family-run farms, and they would be still working with certain breeds or be proud that they'd have this pedigree breed and maybe small flocks. A lot of our farmers that we collect from, they might have 5 sheep in a flock. A couple of them have, 300. That would be our biggest farm. But we're building this farm to yarn network throughout Ireland, and it starts by valuing the farmer and paying the right price for it. And that's why then when we take the wool, we believe it's really hand sourced. It's special. It goes to the mill. It's made by hand by the women. So they're investment pieces, right. Because we truly honor the value in each right. step of that journey, and then the value of the garment. These are made to last forever.
Yeah.
To benefit you, your family, while you're wearing them. At the end of the day, they can be passed on. They can go back into the earth and they compost the soil. Like right. It is a win-wins.
Absolutely. So I love animals, and I love this connection to the land and the sheep are such a huge part of that. So this is where Lionel becomes like such a special person, right? Because he's more intimate with all of this. But I'm curious about, and I also live on Wyoming, which I told you, and Wyoming is traditionally a ranching land, mostly for cattle, but there are sheep farms here. I have not gotten in touch with people. I know that they have like a local small sort of pioneer museum in town, and once a year they do a sheep shearing over there. So now I'm like curious to go look and see, like find out what they're doing about, I think that they're just smaller farmers. I don't think I don't know. I'll have to find out. But I'm curious about the cycle of like, how old does a sheep have to be once it's raised? Side note, on your website, the little videos of the 2 different sheep that you work with. And I love that you bring in how the sheep are birthing their young. Like one of the breeds births outside, whereas the other one is birthing inside. Like they're just, I mean, yeah, I have so many questions about the sheep. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's so
wherever
special.
you want.
Yeah, I mean, it is so special. Like, we really discovered these 2 breeds work very well together. And really, again, the big vision for Ireland is, how do we restore and make it work for the farmer, make it work for everybody? And the key is in working with the different breeds, because there are so many diverse sheep breeds. It's incredible. It blows my mind. Different sheep have all these different qualities, and they're wildly different. So we're working with the blue-faced Leicester, which looks like a giant rabbit for all the world. Its face has got like these huge long ears, rabbit ears.
I can kind of share. I think I put that on. Let's see. let me pull that out and see if I can share screen. There we go. I think this is that showing the sheep?
Yes. You can see their long ears. They're like, you can see them. They're unusual. So they have, the blue-faced Leicester are very soft. That brings the softness to our wool. And they're amazing because they exist very well in Ireland, which we're delighted about, because the farmers have actually been using them because they're good mothers. They weren't using them for the wool, but they're amazing mothers. They're great milkers. They're like, I just love that they're great mothers. Like that,
right?
Just mine too. So the farmers, there's quite enough of them in small flocks, because they were using them for breeding and crossbreeding, simply to raise good lambs for meat, ironically. But we use their wool. Right. And they have the most beautiful softness, but they're very small fleeces, actually, because they have like almost like a skinny neck. Skinny legs.
It looks short in this
picture.
Yeah.
Oh, they would have been in between being shorn when they're, so like they would have been shorn because it's summertime. Right. But when you see, and in that video, you can see one with the long inside, you see the beautiful long staple length, we call it, and it's kind of crimpy. And they're so soft, and they're just by their nature, they're very curious, very friendly, very beautiful, but they're delicate as well. So we take them indoors for birthing. Often they need help birthing. They're wonderful mothers with great milk supplies, but often, like, farmers would describe them as soft sheep that require a lot of care. So they're not ideal for every sheep farmer in Ireland that's busy. But there's enough of them, which I just love. Like their fleece is the finest, and they require that type of care.
So their fleece is the softer. Is that softer? Okay. And then there's this, let me go up. These guys are so cool looking.
I know, they're like teddy bears. They're like really big teddy bears. The Romneys, which were very close to what we think a lot of the native breeds in Ireland would have been.
Okay.
And these are really what we see as the key for Ireland. And we have 2 beautiful head farmers who've organized themselves into a group since they've been supplying us. And they stand over the shearing of every animal. They're standing over the genetic lines to really preserve and maintain a really high quality in this line, because this sheep has a huge big fleece. You get quite couple of kilos off the fleece. And they are also amazing mothers, but especially for farmers, because they don't want to be near you when they're birthing. They want to be outside on their own. It could be hailing or snowing, and they want to be alone birthing. So it's a farmer's dream, because the blue-faced Leicester require a lot of work, and on a farm, farmers are very busy, as you know. So what the magic is, we blend these together. So when they're
That's
short,
what I was wondering. Okay, I didn't get this piece, so I wanted to know.
yeah.
How did you even come to decide to try to blend them? Like, how did that?
I just researched. I researched what was available in Ireland in terms of breeds, and researched all the different wools, what they're good for, what they're used for, what might work. I also met an amazing woman in the UK who ran the mill that I went to get it spun in originally, and she advised me. So the beauty of our blend has this kind of softness and then structure. So that Romney, that's more hardy,
Right.
that is hardier wool, but it's needed to meet this softness because it creates this durability. And it's just a beautiful equation of strength and softness. It also holds a great stitch definition, which is wonderful for an Aran sweater. And knitters would understand that would be a very important thing to them. So
wow, it's
it's kind of a magic that evolved. Again, one of these things that is just meant to be. It's just meant to be. Yeah. It's just waiting for people to come and fill in the connections, you know.
Yeah. So one of the things I was thinking about, because I'm always thinking about like how I was like, what? Because I don't think I shared this on this podcast, but I've shared my story with you a little bit, that when I got a blanket first, was the first thing that you had made for your company. The family blanket, I think, right, was first. And
yes.
And actually we're going to show that too, because Zoe, we've got an affiliate relationship that we've set up, but I think you said you are offering right now like an extra discount or something.
Yes. So we've got our affiliate code that we're setting up, which will be a 15% discount for your community. And then we're also going to have an offer on our original palette of blankets, which is this kind of pastel range.
I think I got it.
I think you have one of these, don't you? So
I do, but I pulled it up. Let me put it on the screen too, because I did make it so that we could look at, there we go, the family blankets. And this is the palette, right?
Yeah, that's it. That is it. Yeah, well done. So that, I haven't put the sale up on that yet, but that will be like another 20% off. And then your coupon code for your people can go on top of that.
That's amazing. That is such a deal, you guys. This blanket. So let me to share my story about the blanket. I got the rosebud color and it came, and I was so excited because in the communities that Zoe and I have sort of participated in with Margaret Jacobson, who is the founder and director of the Seven Sisters Mystery School. And Zoe and I have both studied under her. She brought this forward and in some of the interviews that she had done with you. And so I was like, oh, I'm totally getting one of these blankets, right? And so I get this blanket and I put it on just the top of my bed and on my side of the bed, because my husband gets real hot and everything. And so it was perfect because it's just like the size for one, really like one. I mean, you could certainly wrap, as she's got it here wrapped around herself or wrap around. Oh, look. Hi, sweetie. Oh my gosh. Who is this?
Who's this? I'm sorry. This wasn't a schedule, but it's late in the day for her. This is Jasmine Rose.
Jasmine Rose. Hi, sweetie.
Who calls herself Jazzy Rose.
Right. Jazzy Rose. I love it. So, oh my goodness. I love it. No, it's...
Sorry, go on, Margaret. You were telling a lovely story.
Please don't be sorry. I want other women that watch this to see, like, this is how we have to break the idea that we are only professionals. We are mothers. We are mothers first. End of freaking story. We're mothers first. And that's going to come into our lives. And we need to learn to support each other as mothers in our actual lives. And, Yeah. And it's almost dinner time there for you guys. So, you know,
it's crazy time here.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so this blanket actually, I had the most magical dreams that night. And I was just like blown away with how incredible I don't know, there was a frequency that was coming off of the blanket, and I was clearly very aware of it. And so then that blanket just, I was like carrying it around with me like a little kid, you know, it was going in all the places with me. And then and then you started making the sweaters, and I was like, okay. And I got a couple of the sweaters on the first palette. And actually, I think I did want to show people this. I did put, no. Oh, so that's not what I wanted. Sorry, guys. Not the ambassador program. That's not for this. I swear I put. Oh, I know what it was. Hi, sweetie. Let me pull this up really quick. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you some pictures. You can look at the pictures too. Here we go. Should be here. Oh, I remember. It said choose a smaller file. I didn't know. Oh, I remember what I was going to do. I was going to pull it up on the screen here and then just show people. And I forgot to pull it up. Just give me 2 seconds. Sorry, Zoe.
No, you're okay. I'm fine.
Okay, let's do this.
You want to do that with Sophia?
Share. Stop. Where is this? Stop screen. There we go. Present. Present. Share screen. Share screen on the. Where is it? Window. There we go. I made these slides. Okay. Hopefully we can see that. Can you see that?
Wow. Yeah. Well, I can see
okay.
it.
So these are some of the pictures that Zoe sent me of the sweaters and the designs. So you can see, and then there's Zoe. I love that. But the original, this is the original palette, right?
Yes.
They're just gorgeous colors. I just love them. And the nice thing about this, the both palettes, is that there are colors within them that you can wear. They go with so many things. You can wear a patterned shirt underneath. You can wear a long sleeve plain shirt like I've got underneath. It's just so incredibly versatile. So, and this I think is the newer at least on the right, these sweaters are newer.
Yes. The sweaters are newer.
This is the actual palette, right?
Yeah, that's the new palette, the Kingfisher palette. Yeah, the one that matches branding.
Exactly. And then this is the fam, right? You're missing one person here, right?
Yes, I think it was her.
Jazzy that's missing.
Yeah, Jazzy is missing there.
Well, we get to see her on the screen in person.
Yeah.
So
you get to see her for real. Yeah, so that's the valley there, the mountains. That's where there was a whole thriving wool industry. We had no idea, and we're literally putting that back in place.
Wow.
So there are some of the little lambs, and they were from a sheep that is 7 years old, which is quite old for sheep. Sheep don't last much longer, but beauty about what we do is we use the wool regeneratively for the whole sheep's life. So we really honor the sheep's life cycle.
Right. So you said these little baby lambs were how old?
Well, they are just a couple of months old. They were probably about 6 weeks old, but their mom is 7 years old.
Oh, 7 years old. Okay, great.
It's old for a sheep.
Wow.
She's an amazing mom.
And so I'm going to assume that I don't know, maybe this is, I just like to, I don't know. I have to know the whole picture. So they will be used for their wool. Are they also being used for meat or no?
Not the sheep that we use, because they're used year on year. So we, from the farmers that we buy from, they would be using the Romney is also used for meat, which is essential for the farmer. But then the wool that we're using it off regenerative sheep. So we're buying from those farmers the Yo's wool, the wool as they get older as well.
Right.
And then the Blueface Leicester, they are the ones we're using from the pure flocks. They're not being used for meat.
Wow. And so they're just eating off the land. They're just eating the grass, like they're
Oh
grass
God,
fed.
yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. Like we get asked this question sometimes, you know, like we just presume like all of it is free roaming. Like all our family run farms, they're like, I mean, look at those videos. You can see some of the farmers that we work with in those
Right.
videos. All the farms are like that. The animals are free roaming in the most beautiful lands. It's all natural, organic, the fresh grass that they're eating.
And
There's
so
no,
it's so interesting because I would assume that just like any mammal, right, that the expression of what's coming off in like our hair or on in their wool is them communing with the land by eating. They're eating off the land, and all of that is coming out in the wool, right?
yeah, exactly. That's why it's such high quality. The land is such high quality. And I remember the woman who helped me to curate the wool when I sent it over to her in the UK. She said she was as passionate about Irish wool. She was saying, Zoe, Irish wool is incredible because the land is incredible. The land is very rich. The land is fertile and it's produced. The wool is amazing. It's a total myth that the wool is worthless.
Wow.
You know, so we're really proving that again.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so why does it smell so good?
Why does it smell so good? I think because you appreciate it. Yeah. And
No,
it smells.
seriously, like I'm like, do they wash it? And I mean, it smells
I mean,
so good.
yeah. And when you wash it, like it's washable, like it just gets better. It
Yeah.
blooms more. The fibers soften even. And the smell, it just, I think because it's so little processed compared to what we're used to,
Right.
textiles, fabrics we're used to are so processed, it loses all its originality. Like you
Right.
can still sometimes find a piece of hay or something in the wool and you can smell, especially if you wear it in the rain, you'll smell the sheep.
Wow.
The land.
Well, I smell the sheep. My neighbors raise goats, and yeah, not sheep. They have goats. So, but and the other ones have horses. So, you know, depending on which way the wind is blowing, I love the smell of being out on the farm. To me,
Yeah.
that's just like, it's like just the best scent ever. You know,
I
it's
know.
it's just so earthy and grounding to me.
I know. I actually wanted to make a scent of the farm, like in a bottle that you could provide for people, like to still maintain that. I'm still working on that.
That is such a great idea. My daughter studied perfume. Like she's listened to a lot of interesting podcasts that she's had me listen to on perfumeries, people that are
Wow.
putting things together. And sometimes they will put like really strange essences in things. So, you know, don't knock it. There's
No,
something there.
no, I know.
Definitely.
I'm going to continue on that.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, there's so much to cover here. I know you've got to get on with your life and everything. So I would love if we could come back and talk more because we didn't get to delve totally into the sovereignty goddesses. So, you know, there's 4 different sovereignty goddesses, and Zoe's working actually on a book, right, about them. Do you want to just give everybody like a little quick taste of just who they are, and then we can come back and maybe do a separate interview?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely there's 4 main ones that I work with. Now there's a whole sisterhood when people do connect with them, and a lot of them are ones that are connected to different specific things like herbs, or it was a whole sisterhood really that exists still. There's a huge following in Ireland of Bridget. Bridget is one of the most known. We've named a couple of our things after her. She also translated became a saint. So she enabled actually the whole memory of the sovereignty goddess to live throughout Ireland and beyond, because her following is still so huge through even religious, through pagan, through spiritual groups. She's really kind of transcended that whole idea of the sovereignty goddess, which enables people to connect with her no matter where they're coming from. So Bridget is the main one. She's also associated very close to the land where we are. She's also associated with weaving, with agriculture, with sheep and cattle. The Morrigan is one of the first and main sovereignty goddesses that came to me, assisting me at that point in my life that I told you about, and very much a very kind of practical guide. Bridget is all about spring, regeneration, fire and water, renewal, birthing. She's also a midwife. So farmers would call on her. There's a tradition actually on the eve of Bridget's Day that we just passed to leave out a cloth, ideally a wool garment, I was suggesting, and she blesses it the night before her feast day. And then farmers would have traditionally used this in there when they take the animals in for birthing, use it as a blessing. And the humans would have used it on their body, on any parts of their body that was sick. A big kind of healing presence. So Bridget, the Morrigan, Queen Maeve is another very well-known character from our Irish mythology, say, but these are very real living presences that are, their name is written into all of the land. There are so many parts of our land that are dedicated to these names. And she is a very strong strategist, visionary queen, like known as the High Queen of Ireland, who, you know, they say led wars, but really she was really leading reclamations of the land and things that were happening to the land. And then there's Eriu, of course, who is, it's amazing. We go out to trade shows a lot in Ireland. We're out and about in Ireland. And I don't think I've met so few people who know who Eriu is.
Wow.
Which is
crazy because it's Ireland is named after her.
Ireland is named after Eriu, you know, and the story of Eriu is that when the final invaders came, that she climbed this famous mountain and she negotiated with them. Okay, we'll leave the land. You're taking over the land. We'll recede. They receded into the mountains, or as the stories say, into the land. But she said, on condition that you remember my name. And that's how Ireland became Era, which is the Irish, named after her, for Ireland. But, you know, really, as she explains, that story is told like, you must remember my name, like this power thing. But it wasn't. It was really, she was asking for the remembrance of this divine feminine reverence, and which was really a reverence of the land, a reverence of the feminine, and to be seeded into the land, so that people would be using that word until the time that people start awakening to the truth of that word, which is really the times we're in now.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm writing a book. They're all of their wisdom that they bring through, which is very practical, very hands-on, very day-to-day, whether it's business, family, all of these things, spirituality, and there'll be a chapter on each, and a chapter from their masculines as well.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That's so great. Well, I definitely want to talk more with you about that. So we'll do that, because I had some insights on how sovereignty is bestowed, and just there's so much conversation right now, I would say, in the global community on sovereignty, whether it's health sovereignty or your physical sovereignty, getting out of the corporate government structures, et cetera. But just going back to the fundamental, how sovereignty was bestowed truly is the connection with the land. That was the message that just keeps coming back. It's how we are connected. It's how we are connected to our mothers via placentas. The placenta embeds itself on the land of our mother's uterus. And that is how our mother gifts us that, you know, that sovereignty. And it's the same thing for us standing on the land and soil. We are simply gifted our sovereignty by being in communion with, not with nature, just recognizing that we are nature. We are that, you know. So I just look forward to that conversation. You know, I don't know how far along you are with your book, but we can wait until you're closer to launching and do that, or whenever you're ready. I'm sure.
Brilliant. I love that. Yeah, first quarter's done, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I just want to show everybody here too, just a little bit about how to get, you can use this coupon code, and you can get in touch. Let's see, where is this? That's the coupon code. Let me just show, if you go to one more screen share here over here. So I put this up on the Yin-care store. So you can go to yincare.com. Sorry, this is the store. If you go to shop, it's the affiliate shop. So Eriu is the first affiliate there. You can go to the Womb Wisdom store. If you go there, then you can simply click on this affiliate store button as well. So there's 2 ways to get through, and then you click on here. This will give Yin-care a little gifty you as well. And you also get to use this code of 15% off if you click on shop at Eriu, load up your cart, and you can get, if you do go to the family blanket, which would be the sunset palette blankets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go here, you use the code Yin-care. Plus, is there a separate code that gives them?
No, that will just already be, by the time this is gone through, this will already be on a sale price, and you can use your Yin-care coupon on top of that. So it'll give you a double discount.
Perfect. Wonderful. So I did want to show people how to get in touch with you as well. You can go to Instagram, and it's at eriu.ireland. And she's also got Facebook. So if you're interested in finding out about all things Eriu, of course, you can go to her website as well. Yeah, we're just so excited to have you. And I'm so grateful to have this interview with you. If you could just stick around for a second, but
okay.
Oh, hey.
Another visitor who wanted to say hello before we say goodbye.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much.
Sophia, who all the idea came from, essentially.
Oh, that is so cool. We're so glad your grandma knit you that original blanket.
I know.
Yeah.
How magical. All right. So, no, Zoe, thank you. Thank you immensely for being here today and just sharing your journey and your deep connection with Eriu and the land.
The original blanket.
That's the blanket? How cool.
The original blanket from my grandmother.
Oh my goodness. Did you just bring it over?
Oh, yeah. Sophia just brought it over. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Thank you, Sophia. That was so nice of you to share that. How special. Aw. Well, I'm going to wrap up with your mom so that you guys can get your dinner. I'm sure you're hungry. But we're just so grateful for the work that you're doing in building our new earth. So thank you so much for adding this tremendous beauty that we can wrap around ourselves during our own journeys. And again, I'd really love to have you back here to talk about the Eriu and the sovereignty goddesses. And thanks everybody for joining us today for this interview with Zoe Daly. Again, I'm Margaret Jacobson, the Mother Rising, and you have been listening to the Yin-care Podcast. Until next time, honor yourself, celebrate your strength,
my shoes.
and empower your transformation. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my interview with Zoe Daly. I know it got a little crazy there at the end. We started out, Zoe and I were texting each other afterwards saying, we should have known something was up when our cats were going crazy at the beginning, which you sort of heard us allude to. But we had cats, we had kids. I think it added this really beautiful, special energy that the children and the cats, our animal helpers, decided to come into the conversation. I just love what Zoe is doing. What she and her partner, her husband, I believe now Lionel, have done with the farm and for the sheep, and what they're doing with this beautiful woolen products with my sovereignty shawl. I just love it. And again, they smell so beautiful. So please do take some time to consider purchasing something really special for yourself. I know that you will feel a calling to be surrounded by this or to have this in your life. It is not an easy item to purchase because sometimes the price is a lot for a lot of people, but I am telling you, that it is amazing. The fabric is so soft, and you think wool would be scratchy. This is very, very soft wool. And the smell, it's amazing. It smells, if you really like scents, it smells amazing. There are some special instructions as far as washing it that are on her website. So you definitely, to hold the integrity of the fabric, you don't really need to wash it. Like mostly, like there's a couple of spots every once in a while that I'll get on it, and you can sort of spot treat it. But they recommend, like, there's a process for hanging it outside. And actually they recommend a gentle cycle on the washer, but then it's how you lay it down. But you don't want to have too much agitation in the fabric, because it can stretch out and the fabric won't hold the integrity that it was originally infused with when it was knit. So I just really want to encourage you that she's offered this discount, if that's helpful to you, to get the 15% plus the discount that she's offering, and you can get one of these original blankets. It is a very, very special thing to have in your life. So anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed that interview with Zoe. And again, you can go to Yin-care.com and go to the affiliate store and use that click through to purchase. It will go to their website, and it does give a little kickback to Yin-care for hosting that. And you will use the code Yin-care, YINCARE. And then she said she'll have that additional discount uploaded by the time this podcast goes live. So since we got cut off with all those awesome little kiddos running across the screen, I will just remind you one more time. Until next time, honor yourself, celebrate your strength, and empower your transformation.